Good afternoon, and welcome to Destination Chautauqua. I'm Doc Hamels, and perhaps you know me from our show, Chautauqua Sunrise. I want to welcome you today. It's my pleasure to be interviewing Jason Perdue, who is a candidate for the New York State Assembly position and office for the 150th District, which represents all of us within the viewing area. So, Jason Perdue, welcome to Destination Chautauqua.
Doc, thank you so much, and thank you to Destination Chautauqua for this great opportunity to really talk to the voters in Chautauqua County today about the difficult issues we face.
All right, and we'll get to those in a moment. I want to let our viewers know that this is live, but there will be no call-ins, and that this will be rebroadcast throughout the county on a regular basis as we do all our other shows. Jason, if I may call you Jason.
Absolutely.
I'd like you to introduce yourself to our folks, and this is your opportunity for people to get to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you here today.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I actually grew up in Brockton, New York. You know, it was a difficult area when I grew up. My mother and my father, they raised my sister and I, and, you know, difficult economy, kind of like what we're facing now here in Chautauqua County. My mother and my father, they had a difficult time balancing jobs, part-time, trying to make ends meet, put food on the table. So I really experienced, Doc, at a very early age what people are going through in this county. My father, he had a lot of health conditions later on in life, and unfortunately passed away when I was 16, and I saw how difficult it was for my mother to try to support my sister and I. So when I graduated from high school, I went to Jamestown, New York to start college, and ended up in retail, you know, to make ends meet. So I started out pushing carts. That was my first job.
I did that at supermarket.
And promoted to, you know, sales associate, department manager, assistant store manager, and I'm proud of where I'm at today as a district manager, where I'm able to visit 18 different stores in Chautauqua County each and every single day. But in that job, I'm able to talk to the residents of Chautauqua County. I hear the issues. I hear the struggles. So I really love my job, and I'm passionate about my work.
So you've got first-hand experience
I do.
in your family, and you get to talk with people out on the street. Jason, that's an important ingredient for any political office, but people are wanting to know, probably they're watching right now, what are your qualifications other than having the person, and that's huge. But do you have anything else that brings you here today? Have you been held political office or anything else like that?
I have not. I'm not a career politician. I've never ran for public office. Again, I'm passionate about my work, but I'm very passionate as well about the community. And I've been part of a lot of different community organizations, you know, most specifically the Jamestown Pride Society, where I'm three-time elected president. And we focused on bringing about solutions in the community for the drug epidemic, bringing about solutions in the community for children who are suffering with bullying in schools, for equal opportunity, for fighting for the Hispanic community. There's barriers, literacy barriers, and issues, you know, not only in the workplace, but also in schools. So we fought really hard, and we worked really hard in order to bring about solutions in the community. And after talking to individuals in the community for so many years, being a part of the solution, I mean, day in and day out with these organizations, I feel it's time we have somebody with that first-hand personal community experience representing us in Albany.
Very good. I have some questions, and you've had some topics that we're going to go over today, and I put them in the order that I thought that would be interesting for me and for my viewers. But before I get to that, there's just a general question, and this question is kind of an odd one in that you hear all the time there's downstate politicians or assemblymen, and there's upstate, which in our case what you would be, but that there's a block, there's a group of people downstate that make it very difficult for folks out here in the West. They don't even know we exist half the time. What would be your plan of attack to work with those downstate folks that really control Albany?
Doc, you're absolutely right. There is what appears to be a divide between upstate and downstate. We have very different issues that we face here than they do in downstate. Some are similar and some are shared, but there are very different issues. And what we have to do is make sure that we have an individual in the assembly who has the ability to communicate with downstate. Now we know that you know, the assembly is made up of Democrats. especially in downstate. And we have to have an individual who can talk to them, who can break down those barriers that exist so that we can get our return on our investment and the taxes that we spend, so that we can have the sharing of that tax revenue here in upstate that comes from downstate. It's very important we do that. If we don't, we'll continue to have funding issues here in our area.
Okay, thank you. That was something that's always been on my mind, because that permeates all walks of life and parts of our society, is that downstate drags the state its way, and a lot of times we feel like we're at the short end of the stick.
And we have to change that.
Okay. Right along with politics in Albany now, it's been a sad situation that we've seen people fall from grace in the Assembly and in the Senate and so forth. And I know that when I was reviewing your materials, that you're real high on this abuse of political power, ethics, and so forth. So would you like to speak to that, and what your plan is when you get to Albany?
Yes, Doc. And you know, we see and hear far too often now that there is corruption in Albany. And I feel we need to have elected officials who uphold the highest ethical standards while, you know, and bestowing trustworthiness, while having integrity, and also voting on the right side of issues when they come up in the Assembly, to make sure we start to attack the corruption that exists. And outside income, Doc, is the #1 contributing factor that creates a corrupting influence on our politicians in Albany.
Tell us more of what you mean by that.
Well, outside income, meaning, you know, right now our assemblyman, any assemblyman, makes on average $40,000 more a year as an assemblyman than the median household income here in Chautauqua County. That's a lot of money. And for that kind of money, I feel that our assemblyman needs to be working full-time, needs to be always working full-time for the best interest in Chautauqua County to solve the difficult issues we face. When there's outside income that's involved in that, meaning that the individual is also working, you know, part-time perhaps in another area of work or another employment, there's conflicts of interest that can come up, you know, with that outside income, which can create and has created a corrupting influence on our politicians.
So what you're saying is, if you were elected, you would quit your job?
If I was elected, I would represent the interests of Chautauqua County residents full-time in Albany. Absolutely.
Okay, because my understanding is that they're not in Albany full-time. They're so many months of the year, and that sort of
No, you're absolutely right.
And you would come back home and work here locally.
Yes, and you know, I think the piece to the puzzle there that's important to understand is a representative needs to make sure that they are here a lot, that they are having focus groups, that they're having town halls, and bringing proposed legislation from Albany back to the people of Chautauqua County, and really, you know, bringing it to them and letting them know what we're talking about in Albany, so that they can have a voice in Albany. We bring back their ideas, and you know, in the end, we are representing their voice with their vote, with our vote in Albany.
Okay, so collecting ideas during the downtime, not in session, and gather that information and bring it to Albany.
That's necessary to best represent the residents of this county.
Okay. Can we keep on moving along? Because we have limited time, and we wanted to cover as many topics as we could. But if you want to expand, that's fine by me. Job creation, okay? We have a big project coming up in North County, Athenex, Athenex. I was close. Willie Rosas was just on my show, and I wrote it down, but I never say it right. That's a nice nugget, but that's only a piece of what we need. What would your plan be to encourage economic development, jobs, and so forth? Well,
I think, you know, when you look at the advantages and the programs that are available on a state level, we look at something like Startup New York, which of course is just one tool in the toolbox when it comes to creating jobs. But there's programs like that, there are incentives like that, that I believe, you know, with a business experience, we need to advertise, we need to market. We need to let individuals within our country realize that Chautauqua County is a lucrative place to set up shop, and in order to create jobs. So I feel we need to do more with advertising, and we need to do more with marketing that. We just saw great results in Asheville with a cheese company that was going to lose 60 to 80 jobs, then be able to add just about double that amount because of tax relief programs from our state. And we think about the manufacturers and businesses that have left our area. What could we have done more to keep them there? I think there needs to be communication with our manufacturers and our businesses now, that if they're in trouble, if they're having a difficult time, we have representatives that can go to the state and perhaps bring those advantages in those tax relief programs to them to keep them here. But more so, you know, sometimes, Doc, things are beyond our control, and a business may make a decision to leave.
Sure.
But I think what we need to do to stop that from happening is we need to talk to these businesses, you know, be on the market and take a look around at what other companies could come to our area so that we can have a transitional process. If somebody has to leave beyond our control, we can bring in another employer, bring in another manufacturer, and keep those jobs before we lose them and get ourselves into a situation we're at now, where now we have to work harder above and beyond to try to bring these jobs back. And one more topic on job creation, Doc. I think if we do that now, and we market these incentives that are available, we can create jobs. But I think we also need to think about the future. What kind of jobs can we bring in to help our kids who are graduating from school? And I think that there is a huge area of opportunity in clean and renewable energy. I think that we could invest here in Chautauqua County on being able to create solar panels, perhaps, create pieces to wind turbines, perhaps, and really make a clear statement that not only are we going to fix jobs now and fight to keep jobs here, but we're looking at the future so that we can discontinue the population loss we've seen, keep people here, and increase county revenue because we're able to ship these pieces around the country.
Okay, thank you. That gives us a little better idea of your thoughts on that topic. One that's been a very contested, very heated argument, a discussion that goes around our own table within the family when we're out to dinner, gun control, the SAFE Act. Where do you stand on that?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, you're welcome.
I think that a lot of people, you know, they understand I'm a Democrat, and I think a lot of people may say, oh, he may be, you know, pro-SAFE Act, he may be, you know, anti-guns, but I come from a family of hunters, of anglers, of trappers, we're target shooters, and it's not only part of our life, you know, it's not a hobby, it's a way of life. It's part of the culture, and it's been passed down generation to generation in my family that there is a desperate need to protect the rights of citizens and protect Second Amendment rights. Now, when the SAFE Act came out, I was appalled. I was appalled. I couldn't believe that there were so many attacks on Second Amendment rights. We have to protect those. And I understand in Chautauqua County that's vital. I mean, a lot of us are hunters, we're trappers, we're anglers. But, you know, there are some things in the SAFE Act, however, that I do agree with. I agree with the fact that there are, you know, increased sentences for gun-related crime. I agree with the fact that we have changed the classification of some laws from misdemeanors to felonies, for instance, with gun-related crime, and that's what we need to go after. We need to prevent gun crime. So if elected to New York State Assembly, Doc, I will fight extremely hard to make sure we protect Second Amendment rights, and it is my commitment to make sure that those rights stay vital to us in Chautauqua County.
So you're prepared to tell the governor he was wrong?
The governor was wrong for many of the things that he did. I disagreed with the control of ammunition through a background check process. A lot of the firearms that our law enforcement officers were carrying were deemed illegal through the SAFE Act. We can't do that. That's wrong. We have to protect our Second Amendment rights.
It sounded like it was probably not the best thought out piece of legislation.
Right.
And I think most people I've talked to, at least in Chautauqua County, feel pretty similar to that.
Absolutely.
On both sides of the aisle. Okay, big topic, and this one's near and dear to my heart since I was a school superintendent in another life. We throw around this term education reform, and I got to tell you, I'm kind of tired of that term because we've been reforming education ever since I was a little kid. I remember my brother was in the new math program. I was in the old program. I did real well in math. He couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. My parents, and this is back in the, you know, the 50s. So we've been talking about education reform forever. So what is it, or what do you want to do about it?
Well, Doc, that's, you know, I like that story because it's similar to what I've dealt with myself. You know, my son, when Common Core was implemented, my son had a very difficult time with math. He was ending the school year learning multiplication tables, and then began the next school year learning a whole different way.
Deconstructing multiplication, right?
Exactly. And he struggled, Doc, and you know, he's at a point now where we've got past that hump, which is fantastic, but there are a lot of kids that are still left behind in our schools, a lot of teachers that really, the confidence level and the comfort zone of teaching is difficult because of the poor implementation and rollout of Common Core. But there's a few things here. First of all, I think we need to really make sure we're getting a return on our investment as far as taxes we pay, and also get our fair share from downstate to help our schools. We need to fund our schools. We need to fund our libraries and our literacy programs, and they're only partially funded now. You know, another thing that's important is I feel we need to go back and we need to look at teacher training. There are teachers that, you know, I personally spoke to that had a difficult time when Common Core was rolled out.
Oh, so you're talking about retraining?
Retraining,
okay,
and having the ability for them to go through programs to be more comfortable in the classroom.
Gotcha.
But the other portion of that is making sure that our students, like my son, who are left behind, have the ability to get caught up with having tutors in schools. You know, and I don't think that we can completely eliminate Common Core, because I believe we need to have common standards for kids to learn. We can't have children left behind, and every child deserves a fair playing field when it comes to education.
Right. Some common threads in there. Yeah.
Common threads. And last on the topic, this notion of linking teacher evaluations with mandatory testing that the students have struggled with because of the poor rollout, that teachers have struggled with because of the poor rollout. We have to do something about that. It is not fair to evaluate teachers right now based on testing that the students are prepared to take and the teachers aren't completely comfortable on.
Okay, I'm going to drill down on that question a little bit. If you're elected and you're state assemblyman and you go to Albany, you got the Department of Education over here, you're a legislator, and you got the governor and, you know, and all these folks. How do you make that change? How's that work, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, we need to look out for the best interests of our students, our teachers, our parents, and like I said, we need to get the return on our investment. So if our teachers, like we stated, are not comfortable, if our students are not comfortable, if there are these major issues with our educational system that's creating a burden in the classroom and a burden for our school districts, I have absolutely no problem, Doc, stepping up and making it very well known that we in Chautauqua County need to fix the issues that are faced. And whatever it is that we decide we need to do to make that happen, I'm prepared to take to Albany and fight for.
Okay, through legislation, resolution, statute, recommend, change it. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And I suppose there's an education block or a committee that you could serve on and make changes there. Okay, this next one, I got to tell you, I'm not sure where I stand on it, because I understand both sides of it, but minimum wage, there's talk about raising it to $15, and people say, wow, that's wonderful, I will make all this money, and they may lose their jobs because the mom and pop shops can't afford $15 an hour. So help me understand where you stand on this.
We can't go to $15 an hour. If we went right now to $15 an hour in Chautauqua County, it would be devastating. It would be devastating for businesses. It would be devastating for our economy. It's important to understand that the minimum wage is going to incrementally increase over a certain period of time to $12.50 an hour. And I think that's the right way to go about doing it. And I'll tell you why, Doc. Individuals in the workplace are struggling. If we look at statistics, okay, it shows that even an employee who works 40 hours a week at minimum wage, at the end of the year, their annual income is right below the poverty line.
Right.
And we cannot, I mean, how can we continue to say that's okay, that we have these hard-working individuals in our county who fall below the poverty line because minimum wage isn't where it needs to be. So we need to look at the benefits of what is going to happen when incrementally minimum wage increases. First of all, it's clear that more individuals will have money in their pockets to support their families, to put food on their table, and be above the poverty line to do that. Secondly, it's clear that when individuals have more money to spend, and this is just basic economics, Doc, when individuals have more money to spend, they're spending it in the community. They're doing things that they weren't able to do before. And I think about my life and what I'm able to do when I couldn't when I was younger, such as the Chautauqua County Fair every year, going to local small businesses, going to our museums, going to our hockey games and baseball games.
Recreational things, sure.
That money stays here, Doc. That money is invested into our community that we can use. Not to mention individuals making more pay more taxes. That directly impacts us here in Chautauqua County. In the long term, if people are spending more money If businesses are busier, if profits increase, there's a demand for goods, which means that we're going to be able to create jobs. Businesses are going to need to add more people to meet the demand of their business increasing. It's going to create jobs. It's the right thing to do. It needs to be done, and it will create jobs. The last part of that, Doc, is we know that there is a heavy dependency on social programs because individuals are working part-time, you know, and they're able to take advantage of social programs here in our area and have to in order to make ends meet. If individuals working full-time at a higher minimum wage then do not need to rely on public assistance and so on and so forth, we're naturally reforming our welfare system because people can make more money because it's more lucrative for them to enter the workplace.
Okay, so we raised the minimum wage to a higher level. Are the jobs there?
We need to create more jobs,
as
absolutely.
we were saying earlier.
Yes.
So how do we go from I'm either in a minimum job, which a low skill level, or on welfare?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get them from there to a good paying job? Because it's more than just giving them money.
No, I understand that, Doc, and I think you know, I think there's myths out there where individuals feel that you know, people are just, you know, collecting public assistance because they want to or they can or don't want to. You know, this is a cycle, Doc, and individuals now, it's easier for them to support their families. And that's what this is all about, okay? People are on social programs to support their families, to put food on the table. If they have the opportunity to do better for their families, to do more, to be able to provide more food, to be able to provide better experiences through more money, they're going to enter the workforce. And I've outlined what I would do to create jobs, okay? And a lot of those will be high-paying, skilled jobs in manufacturing, but even on the basic level, to know that individuals can break free of a cycle, of a social program, and do more for their families, that's what we have to think about, and that's what we need to do in this county.
Okay, thank you. The next topic to me is just as difficult, and I mentioned Willie Rosas was on the show earlier today, and we talked about heroin, meth lab. Well, we didn't talk about meth labs, but meth is out there. But the heroin and the Narcan and that whole sad situation where we've got this deconstruction of our society due to drugs. What's your position? What do you want to do about it?
Well, Doc, you're absolutely right. And, you know, it's not an issue, it's an epidemic in our county now. And I've talked to so many individuals who have lost loved ones. They've lost family members. I've talked to individuals whose families have been torn apart. And communities, as we see, are diminished. And it's tragic right now what we're going through. We need to understand that the legislature, the Senate, they've made steps to begin to deal with individuals getting addicted by putting harsh penalties on overprescribing and so on and so forth. But the one area that a lot of politicians and elected officials forget about is the fact that people are addicted. Addiction is a problem, and we have nothing right now. We have nothing at all in our county to solve this problem. Addiction is the issue, and that's what we got to look at. So what I'm proposing, if elected to the New York State Assembly, is what a lot of community organizations are talking about, such as the Mental Health Association of Chautauqua County. And a lot of those suffering with addiction say we need so they can break this cycle they've been on. And Doc, it's transitional housing. It's a facility that an individual can enter after they have gone through the treatment process, you know, the medical portion of the process. They enter a facility where they have access to mental health counseling, which is a big piece to the puzzle in order to break addiction. But the big deal here is life skills, social skills, because we have to break that cycle of addiction. That's what individuals need, is to break that cycle. In this transitional housing program, what has been talked about is employment opportunities within, such as laundry, that can contract out to different areas within our county. These individuals will have the opportunity to work in this place. It will create revenue. It's going to allow them the opportunity to learn work skills, life skills, so that when they leave this facility after however long it is needed for them to break the cycle, They have the skills necessary to contribute to our society.
Who pays for this facility?
That's a great question. And this facility, once up and running, Doc, will be self-sufficient through the contracted out programs. But because we face an epidemic, because this is an issue we have to fix now because of the lives that are lost and the communities being torn apart, we have to have startup funding to get this going.
Okay.
And I would propose obtaining that startup funding from the state in order to build and start out this facility that will then, create revenue. We'll be self-sufficient.
Jason, I've been told that we've got less than a minute left. I can't believe it already.
I know.
So, you got the last half minute, 45 seconds. So tell folks in the camera about yourself. Oh, wait a minute. We have a debate here. How much time do I have? Oh, I'm sorry. We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So there's a follow-up question I was handed. I don't know if this is from a caller or what.
Okay.
But and please take that. I did not write this question. All right.
Okay.
But it says, and let me phrase it in this way: should you not be elected, okay, which is that's a possibility. What role would you play in Chautauqua County politics?
Doc, that's a great question. And
It's not mine now.
Well,
remember?
okay, well, who had that question? I appreciate that question. I've been involved in this community my entire life, involved in various different organizations and groups to tackle the issues we face. If I'm not elected, I will continue to work hard to bring about solutions within this community, within our county. And I'll continue to work hard to make sure our voices in Chautauqua County are heard on a state level, as I've done for the past many years. So I'm very interested in representing Chautauqua County, but I will continue to do that in whatever way I can.
So you're not going to go away?
I'm not going anywhere, Doc.
Maybe to Albany, maybe not. Okay, we're down to about 1 minute and 5 seconds here now. So this is your opportunity to wrap it up. Tell everybody in the viewing audience about Jason Perdue, why you want to go to Albany and why they should vote for you. Go for it.
Well, first off, I want to thank Destination Chautauqua County and Doc. This was a great chance to really speak with the residents of Chautauqua County on the very difficult issues we face each and every single day in our lives. Now, on November 8th, we have a very clear choice. We have two very different paths that we can take. And the choice ultimately is yours. Do we continue on the same path we've been on the past 2 years, where our schools are underfunded, where our libraries are underfunded, where our infrastructure projects are underfunded? There are so many issues in this county that we face, and I personally don't feel that we've made progress. Look around you and ask yourselves the same question, have we? I have a different path to take, and you've heard that path today. And I hope that together we're brave enough to move forward down that path.
Folks, you've been watching Chautauqua, Destination Chautauqua. Our guest has been Jason Perdue. I want to thank you for viewing in today, and we're going to do this again next week with a debate and another interview. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Doc Hamels. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.